Hey, I'm Brandon Gaylor. This is So Happy to Gaylor. This is mine and Beverly's YouTube channel, and I want to show y'all what books I read for last year in 2020. I've never been much of a reader my whole life. I've read more this year than I ever have, mainly just trying to learn stuff, and I think it's a good thing to read and not watch movies and TV and stuff. First off, I'll say I'm not much of a fictional reader. I'd rather read something that I learn and get something from it, either a autobiography or some non-fictional like business or instructional or something like that kind of book. First off, I started, I guess, the end of 19 going into 20. I started with You Can Farm by Joe Salatin. This was probably one of the best books I read this past year, and it really got me started in what I wanted to do on starting a homestead, and if it's possible to make any money, like with a homestead or farm, whether you have to have 100 acres or you can start with 5 or less, I guess, or even 1. Joe Salatin, after watching his videos and reading his first book, he is by far one of my favorite farmers and people to learn and listen to. His books, he's probably one of the best authors I've ever read because reading his books, I always want to come back and read more. I can't put them down, I guess. Number 2 was The Doomsday Prepping Crash Course by Patty Hine, I guess it is. My parents went to Maine a few years ago on vacation, and they brought me this book. They bought it for me up there. Never really did read it until this year. It was just a basic, like simple beginner's guide to prepping and I guess being self-sufficient. A lot of the stuff I already kind of knew and had seen before online, but pretty cool book. The next book, number 3, was Bushcraft 101 by Dave Canterbury. That's what that book looks like. He was actually on the Dual Survivor, I believe it was. The guy with him, he was like the military guy with Cody Lundeen, the barefoot hippie guy. So he was more of the military guy. And this he gives you all kinds of instructions and how to make and do bushcraft type stuff, like living out of the woods, edible plants, building stuff, a lot of building stuff, how to kill and butcher animals, all kinds of stuff. My brother got me this last year in 2019 for Christmas. So I got this book, and then I wanted to make sure I read this book before this one. So that's kind of why I read this one after having it for years and not reading it. So there's 3. Number 4 is Family Homesteading by Terry Page. It says the ultimate guide to self-sufficiency for the whole family. I actually bought this book for Beverly. I think I did. You got all kinds of stuff you can do, all kinds of little crafts and making stuff. It talks about having animals and growing a garden and doing everything with kids also and kind of getting them involved. So it's kind of a beginner starting family homesteading book. Pretty good book. Beverly got to hear on it, so she didn't quite finish it, but I ended up finishing it. It's got several pictures. That's a good book. I think I got it at Tractor Supply. That's number 4. Number 5. Okay, this is one of my favorite books of the year. The Market Gardener by J.M. Fortier. He is a French Canadian. He has a very successful market garden, selling all this produce and everything at farmers markets, plus CSAs and restaurants and stuff like that. Very informative book. If you have any desire to make a market garden or build a garden that's makes enough produce to sell at farmers markets or however you want to do it, this is a great book to read. It's very in-depth and detailed. It goes by, like at the very end, it shows the different plants and how productive they are, how good they are at being in the winter, and how the spacings you need to plant them and stuff like that. It's one reason why we did our garden how the way we did it with the 30-inch beds and 18-inch rows. Plus, we're using silage tarp on it right now. This is all in this book. So the best book so far to me for starting a homestead would be You Can Farm by Joe Salton and this book. With those two books, it kind of got us started more than anything. So number 5. Number 6, it was an audio book. I don't have it. It's Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I think is how you say it. I've always heard of this book. I've always liked financial stuff, especially Dave Ramsey. So his stuff is not exactly Dave Ramsey, but it's good to kind of read other stuff too than just Dave Ramsey stuff. The Rich Dad Poor Dad, I've always heard of it, and I've always heard of it while researching financial stuff, but it took me a while to actually want to read it. But once reading it, it's pretty good. It teaches you basically don't buy stuff that's going to go down in value, like cars and I guess clothes and just electronics and useless stuff. Put your money into property and assets that will keep the value or go up in value. So he teaches that it's okay to have debt, but you want to have more asset than debt. Where most people probably have more debt than they do asset. So I would rather not have any debt, but I would like to be conscious about how to spend the money and spending it on assets versus liabilities that's going to go down in value, like a $50,000 truck or something. Instead of spending $50,000 on a truck, go buy a fixer-upper house and rent it out or something. Or something me and Beverly's talked about doing and would love to do is buy a cheap piece of land for $5,000 up in somewhere where there's a lot of camping or horseback riding, or somewhere there's a lot of not really touristy, but people coming to visit. Not somewhere like Gatlinburg, but somewhere like Big South Fork, Tennessee, where there's, I guess, weekend people coming, and buying the cheap piece of land, building a small, like, tiny cabin for another $5,000-$10,000. So you may have $10,000 to $20,000 into it, but it's paid off, and you could have people come in every weekend or week and renting it out on Airbnb. So that's something me and Beverly's talked about doing, and that's kind of what that book talks about. Spending money on that versus like a new car. Number 7 is Pistolcraft by Reed Hendricks. Really like Reed. He's from, I think it's Harrogate, Tennessee. He has a firearms training place called Valor Ridge. And this is a book he wrote that it goes through some of the history of like the pistol fighting, I guess. And he has done he's been to a lot of different training classes and stuff, and has learned under a lot of great firearms instructors, and he's kind of figured out his own way of the best way to do everything. So he goes through all this in that book, and he has a lot of instructional stuff about different kind of drills and stuff you can do with your pistol and how to train. So really like that book. He has another book out called Rifle. What's it called? Is it Riflecraft? No, it ain't Riflecraft. It's American Rifleman, I believe. Something like that. He has a rifle book out. I like to get it, and he's also writing a American history book. He used to be a history teacher, so he really knows his history. He was a Marine and also a police officer. So, really like Reed. I'd love to go to his training classes someday. So that's number 7. Number 8 is the Vegetable Gardener's Handbook by the Old Farmer's Almanac. It don't really have an author, but it's by whoever does the Farmer's Almanac. This is a really in-depth book. It goes through how to plant and make a garden and all that kind of stuff, but it's got in-depth about all the different kinds of vegetables and stuff like celery. It's just got lots of information broken down into each individual plant. I started reading each individual plant, but it just got too overwhelming. So I read the overall part of the book, but if I need more in-depth information about the plants, I can look in this book. That was number 8. So number 9 is the Homesteader's Natural Chicken Keeping Handbook by Amy Fuel. It's about raising a healthy flock from start to finish. So if you're wanting to raise chickens, highly recommend this book from beginner to experienced. If I was going to have probably one chicken book for raising chickens on a homestead, not really for like meat chickens like a business or anything like that, I would recommend this book. Amy Fuel, she's the founder of Homesteaders of America. She's great at everything she does. Got a lot of good pictures. She'll teach you how to do everything naturally and using herbal supplements, I guess, and herbal stuff, how to do everything. A really good book. Highly recommend it. She has some more, I think she has some kind of herbal book too she's done. So that'd be a good book to have also. So that was number 9. Number 10 was also an audiobook. It is a very famous book and a book that's also been banned in a lot of schools and other places. It is 1984 by George Orwell. This book is about pretty much what the government is trying to do. It's about, they call it Big Brother, which is the government, and they're always trying to spy on you, and there's no freedom. They tell you everything you can do and what you can't do, when you can go outside your house, when you can be in your house, when you have to be home, pretty much like now. It's everything about it is upside down of right, pretty much. Like the stuff that is good is bad, and the bad is good, and what's right is wrong, and wrong is right. It's pretty much what the book's about. So there's a guy and a girl, and they fall in love and stuff, and they're trying to take down the government, pretty much, Big Brother. But they get caught, and they get put into their torture facility, pretty much, and they brainwash them into their way of thinking. Like 2 and 2 is not 4, or 2 and 2 is 5 or something. That's how they actually believe it. At first they don't believe it, and the government brainwashes them to where they believe anything they say, and the whole ending of the story is he says he'll never believe and never like Big Brother, the government, but at the very end he loves Big Brother, and as soon as he realizes he loves Big Brother, they shoot him in the back of the head and kill him. That's all they wanted to do, was turn you and brainwash you into loving the government, and then they kill you so that you're happy. As soon as you get happy and love the government, they kill you. So that was number 10. Number 11, another political book, Understanding the Constitution, 10 Things Every Christian Should Know by Dr. David Gibbs, Jr. And it is signed by him. If you're a Christian and you care about you care about your country, and you need to learn the Constitution, read this book. It shows you in history of how the founding fathers set up the government, set up the Constitution through God as Christians. Well, they weren't all Christians, but they believed in a God, a creator God. So read this book. It's great. I have another one of his books I haven't read yet. But if you want to really learn about some history, and it also has the Constitution in here, so you need a copy of the Constitution. I have a couple. This is one of them. If you have never read the Constitution, get this book. It tells you about it, how the founding fathers created it with God, by God providing, I guess, them the knowledge and everything to do it with. And it has the Constitution. You can read it. So highly recommend that book. And Dr. David Gibbs is a Christian lawyer. Hey, Minnie. That was number 11. It's number 12. This is a book that a buddy of mine gave me. It says A Look at Life from the Riverbank by Steve Chapman. It's stories about fishing and the meaning of life. It's pretty much a Christian book with short stories about fish, like ties in with fishing, plus Christian and Bible stuff. So it's got Bible stories plus the author's personal stories. The author's personal stories all tied in with like the Christian beliefs and fishing. It has a prayer the end of every chapter. I'm not super crazy about these kind of books. I'd rather have something more in-depth that I can learn about, but this is a good book, kind of like a really short book to get you through and not be too in-depth and just kind of a light reading book, I guess. And it's got some good stuff in it too. So that was number 12. Last but definitely not least was number 13 is Pastured Poultry Profits by Joe Salton. Another awesome book. I just finished this up on, actually the day after, I guess I just finished it up on January 1st of 21. So finished the last chapter of it. Love this book. I love anything Joe Salton pretty much. He's got the best readable books, I guess. Like I can read his books easier than anybody else's that I've seen. If you're thinking about getting meat chickens, get this book. It tells you pretty much everything you need to know from his experience from the late 80s up until, I think his newest writing in this is 2010. So if you're thinking about getting meat chickens, it tells everything you need to know on that. And also his egg laying chickens and turkeys and stuff. It has some pretty good stuff about those. I highly recommend anything Joe Salton. I would like to get all of his books and read them. And these books I would read probably several times. It'd be good to probably read them every other year or so. So if I was going to give you two of my favorite books that's helped me the most this year, would be You Can Farm by Joe Salton and The Market Gardener by J.M. Fortier. These two books has got us going in our homestead and making a garden and just, I guess, inspiration that we could make money doing this and work from home and with each other. So those would be my two favorite books of last year. The first book I'm reading this year in 2021 is The Self-Sufficient Backyard by Ron and Joanne Melchior. I don't know how you say it. Melchior. Melchiore. So you can look that up on your own. Beverly got me this for Christmas, and it looks really good. They've had a few different homesteads, some in like the bush of Canada, I guess it was. They show like a 1/4 acre plot of everything you need to grow all your food for a year. So I'm on the 4th chapter right now. It's got some pictures. But I have a big Amazon list of books, and this is one of the ones on them. It's been on there for a while, and Beverly got me this for Christmas. So I'm excited to read this and get finished with it and learn about it. These are the kind of books I really like reading. It teaches me a lot and gives me a lot of ideas of what we can do in our own place here. So thanks for watching. I know this is a pretty long, boring video probably about books, but anytime a homesteader or somebody that I'm interested in recommends books, I usually go look it up and put it on my Amazon list. So maybe there's some of these you may want to do that too. I recommend about all these books I read. Several of these would definitely help on starting a homestead or your own farm type business, or even if you're just going to be doing it, trying to grow your own food for your family throughout the year. I know it's kind of uncertain times about how our food supply is right now, so some of these books will be good to have. I hope you like this video. It's probably a little longer than I planned on making, but it should be. I wanted to document what I did last year, and this is the most I've ever read in my whole life. I've never read 13 books in a year, so that's pretty cool to me. Hoping I can do that much or even more in 2021. So thanks for watching, and check back next time to see what I'm reading and what else we're doing in our homestead. Bye.